Elder Kithara stood in the crystal chamber deep beneath the surface of Zelana's prime. Her long, pale fingers touched the smooth walls that glowed with soft blue light. The walls were made of special crystals that could send thoughts across space. Today, she would use them for the last time. Above her, the sky burned red. The Vorth Empire's ships filled the darkness between the stars like angry metal insects. They had already destroyed 6 of the 7 Zelani worlds. Millions of her people were dead. Soon the last world would fall too. The Zelani were a peaceful race. They had never built weapons or fought wars. Their thin bodies and large eyes were made for thinking and feeling, not fighting. They could speak to each other with their minds across great distances. They built beautiful cities of crystal and light. They made art and music that touched the soul. But they could not stop the Vorth from killing them. Kithara closed her eyes and placed both hands on the crystal wall. The smooth surface grew warm under her touch. She opened her mind and let her thoughts flow into the crystal network that covered the planet. The crystals began to sing with a low musical sound. "My people," she whispered, and her voice reached every Zelani still alive on the planet. "We have tried everything. Our shields are failing. Our ships cannot fight. The darkness comes for us and we have no more time." Across the planet, millions of Zelani joined their minds to hers. She felt their fear, their sadness, their love for each other. Even now, facing death, they thought only of protecting their families and friends. "We will try one last thing," Kithara said. "We will send our plea to the stars. Perhaps someone will hear us. Perhaps someone will care." The crystals grew brighter. The singing grew louder. Every Zelani on the planet added their voice to the call that would go out into space. They had learned long ago that their thoughts could travel faster than light through the strange space between dimensions. Today they would use this gift to ask for help. Kithara spoke the words that would be sent to every corner of the galaxy. "To any who can hear our thoughts across the void, we are dying. We are peaceful. We have no weapons, no armies, no knowledge of war. The darkness comes for us and we cannot stop it. Please, if there is mercy in the universe, help us. We do not want to die. We want to live and love and create beautiful things. But the Vorth Empire burns our worlds and kills our children. Please, someone, anyone, help us." The message shot out from Zelano's prime like an invisible wave. It passed through normal space and into the twisted dimensions where thoughts could travel. It spread in all directions, carrying the pain and hope of an entire race. The crystals slowly stopped singing. The blue light faded. Kithara opened her eyes and felt very tired. She had put all her strength into sending the message as far as possible. "Did anyone hear us?" asked Senthai, a young Zelani who had joined her in the crystal chamber. "I do not know," Kithara said. "The message will reach many worlds, but most races fear the Vorth Empire. They will not risk their own people to save strangers." Above them, the first Vorth ships entered the planet's atmosphere. Red beams of energy shot down from the sky, turning crystal cities into melted glass. The Zelani had no choice but to hide and wait for the end. In the deep space around many worlds, the Zelani message was received. Computer systems decoded the strange thought language and turned it into words that other races could understand. On Altair Prime, the bird-like Kresh read the message and felt sad. But their leaders said they could not fight the Vorth Empire. The Kresh were traitors, not warriors. On the waterworld of Pacifica, the dolphin-like Aquari received the plea. They wanted to help, but their ships could not travel far from water. They could only send their sympathy. In the gas clouds of the nebula worlds, the energy beings called the Luminous felt the Zelani's pain. But they could not take solid form or use weapons. They could only watch and grieve. One by one, the civilized races of the galaxy received the message. One by one, they decided they could not help. The Vorth Empire was too strong, too ruthless. To fight them meant death. But in a small system on the edge of the galaxy, something different happened. The message reached Earth's deep space listening posts at exactly 1432 Universal Time. The computers there were very good at understanding alien languages. Within minutes, they had translated the Zelani plea and sent it to the military headquarters on Earth. Admiral Sarah Chen was drinking coffee in her office when the message appeared on her screen. She read it once, then read it again. Then she stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the military base. Earth in 2387 was not a peaceful world. Humans had spread to many star systems, but they still fought each other over resources and territory. Human ships were not as advanced as those of other races, but they were built tough and armed heavily. Other aliens feared humans because humans seemed to enjoy fighting. Chen picked up her communication device and called an emergency meeting of all military commanders on Earth and the nearby colonies. "We have a situation," she said when they were all connected. "A peaceful alien race is being wiped out by something called the Vorth Empire. They've asked for help. What's our strategic interest?" asked General Martinez from Mars Colony. "What's our profit margin?" asked Admiral Volkov from the asteroid mining stations. "None and none," Chen said. "They have nothing we want. They can't pay us. They can't help us in any way. Then why are we discussing this?" asked someone. Chen looked at the message again. She thought about the words, "We do not want to die and help us and please." "Because it's the right thing to do," she said. The other commanders were quiet for a moment. Then Martinez spoke up. "The Vorth Empire sounds big and nasty. We'd be starting a war we might not win." "Probably." Chen agreed. "Our politicians will never approve a military action with no benefit to Earth," said Volkov. "Probably not," Chen said. "So what do you want to do?" asked Martinez. Chen smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that made other humans nervous. "I want to send a message to every human ship, station, and colony in space. I want to tell them what's happening to the Zilani. Then I want to see what happens." She sent the message within the hour. It went to military bases and civilian colonies. It went to mining stations and research outposts. It went to the corporate fleets and the independent traders. It even went to the pirates and smugglers who lived in the dark spaces between stars. The message was simple. Peaceful aliens are being murdered. They asked for help. "Who's coming with me?" On Zalanos Prime, the Vorth ships landed. Soldiers in black armor poured out and began destroying everything they found. The Zilani hid in their crystal caves and waited for death. Elder Kithara felt her people dying one by one. Their thoughts faded from the network like lights going out. She wept for them and wondered if anyone in the vast universe had heard their plea. She did not know that far away. In human space, something was stirring. Something angry and violent and strangely protective was waking up. The monsters were coming, but they were coming to help. The message spread through human space like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every human settlement had heard about the Zilani and their desperate plea for help. The reaction was not what most alien races would have expected. On Mars Colony, General Martinez watched his communication board light up with incoming messages. Ship captains, soldiers, and even civilian volunteers were calling to ask when they would leave for Zilani space. He had not expected this. "Sir," said his aide, Lieutenant Foster, "we're getting calls from everywhere. The mining ships from the asteroid belt want to join the rescue mission. 3 corporate fleets have already started moving toward the rally point. Even the prison ships are asking if they can help." Martinez rubbed his forehead. "What rally point?" "We haven't organized anything yet. Admiral Chen declared one, sir. She's gathering ships at the edge of the solar system. The news feeds are calling it the Mercy Fleet." On the deep space station Omega-7, Captain Elena Vasquez was loading supplies onto her destroyer, the Righteous Fury. Her crew worked faster than they ever had before, checking weapons and engines with grim determination. "Captain," said her weapons officer, "we're getting volunteer ships from everywhere. Some of them don't even have military training." "Doesn't matter," Vasquez said. "They heard that innocent people were dying, and they want to help. That's all the training they need for this job." In the corporate boardrooms of Earth, executives watched their stock prices change as ships left their duties to join the growing fleet. Strangely, most of them supported the mission. Even the mega corporations that usually only cared about profit sent their best ships to help. "It's bad for business," said one executive, "but it's good for the soul." The most surprising addition to the fleet came from the maximum security prison on Europa. Marcus Hellhound Reeves had been locked up for war crimes during the corporate conflicts of 2384. He was a dangerous man who had done terrible things. But when he heard about the Zilani, something changed in him. The prison guards found his cell empty one morning. The security cameras showed nothing useful. They had all stopped working at the same time. Later, a stolen prison transport ship was seen heading toward the rally point. Nobody tried very hard to catch it. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Leviathan, and watched ships arrive at the rally point. There were military vessels with heavy armor and big guns. There were cargo ships with mining lasers bolted to their hulls. There were luxury yachts carrying rich people who wanted to help. There were even pirate ships flying under temporary amnesty flags. "How many ships do we have?" Chen asked her aide. 847 at last count, Admiral. "And more are coming," Chen nodded. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled, brought together not by government orders or corporate contracts, but by simple human anger at injustice. "Open a channel to all ships," she said. When the communication link was active, Chen spoke to the thousands of humans who had come to help people they had never met. "I won't lie to you," she said. "We're going to fight an empire that has never been defeated. We're going into a battle we might not win. Our ships are older and less advanced than theirs. We have no strategic advantage and no political support from Earth." She paused and looked out at the fleet filling the space around her. "But we have something they don't have. We have humans who heard crying and came running. We have people who think that hurting innocent civilians is wrong no matter who does it. We're not going to Zalani space as conquerors or traitors. We're going as protectors." Across the fleet, humans prepared for war in their own strange way. Some prayed to various gods. Others sharpened knives and cleaned guns. A few wrote letters to family members they might never see again. Many just sat quietly and thought about the Zalani people dying while they traveled through space. On the pirate ship Blackbird, Captain Torres looked at her crew of thieves and murderers. These were not good people by most standards, but they had all volunteered for the mission. "Why are we doing this?" asked her first mate. "The Zalani have nothing we want to steal." Torres thought about it. "Maybe that's why we're doing it. Maybe for once we can steal something back from death instead of adding to it." The fleet left the rally point 3 days after Chen's first message. They traveled through the space between stars at the fastest speed their slowest ship could manage. It would take 2 weeks to reach Zalani space, even at full speed. During the journey, human engineers worked on their ships with typical human creativity. They took apart old equipment and built new weapons. They strengthened hulls with salvaged metal. They programmed their computers with battle tactics that had been tested in 100 human conflicts. Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist who had joined the mission to help with first contact, studied everything they knew about the Zalani. She was fascinated by their telepathic abilities and their crystal technology. "They might be able to help us in the battle," she told Admiral Chen. "If we can link our communications to their crystal network, we could coordinate our attacks better than any enemy would expect." Chen liked the idea. "What do you need?" "Time to work with their technology when we get there, and maybe some of their crystals to experiment with." "You'll have whatever you need," Chen promised. As the fleet traveled deeper into space, they began to receive messages from other alien races. Most of the messages warned them to turn back. The Kresh sent a formal diplomatic note. "The Vorth Empire cannot be defeated. You will only add to the death count." The Aquari sent a more emotional message. "We admire your courage, but this is suicide. Please reconsider." The energy beings called the Luminous sent a strange message that took hours to decode. "The humans burn with purpose fire, but purpose fire can consume the one who carries it." Chen read all the messages and then deleted them. She didn't want her people to lose their resolve. But some messages were different. A few alien races sent coordinates of Vorth military bases. Others provided intelligence about Vorth ship designs and tactics. None of them would send ships to help, but they were willing to provide information to the humans who were brave enough to fight. On the 10th day of the journey, they received a message from Zalanos Prime. It was weak and broken, barely getting through the Vorth jamming systems, but it was clearly from Elder Kithara. "Unknown friends," the message said, "we detect your approach. We do not know who you are or why you come, but we are grateful. Most of our people are dead. Our cities are burning, but some of us still live in the deep caves. We will try to help you if we can. Please be careful. The Vorth are very strong." Chen played the message for the entire fleet. When it ended, there was silence on all the communication channels. Then slowly, responses began to come in. "Leviathan, this is Righteous Fury. We're ready for battle." "Leviathan, this is Blackbird. These Vorth bastards are going to pay." "Leviathan, this is the mining ship Heavy Lifter. We've welded armor plates to our hull and loaded our cargo holds with explosives. Point us at the enemy." One by one, every ship in the fleet checked in. They were ready to fight and die for people they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. Admiral Chen looked at her tactical display. The Vorth fleet around Zalanos Prime was large and well-armed. Her ships were outnumbered and outgunned. By every rule of space warfare, This battle should be hopeless. But Chen had learned something important during her long military career. Humans didn't follow the normal rules. They were unpredictable, stubborn, and willing to take risks that other races thought were insane. Sometimes that was enough to win battles that should have been lost. All ships, she announced, prepare for combat. Let's show these Vorth what happens when someone hurts the innocent. War Master Krexthal stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. Through the large viewing window, he could see the burning planet below. Zelanos Prime was almost completely conquered. His ships had destroyed most of the crystal cities and killed millions of the weak Zelani people. The Vorth Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past century. The Zelani had been among the easiest victims. They had no weapons, no military, and no will to fight. Krexthal expected to finish the job within a few more days. War Master, called his sensor officer, we are detecting multiple ships approaching from outside the system. Krexthal turned from the window. How many ships? Over 800, sir. They appeared to be from an unknown species. This was unusual. Most civilized races avoided Vorth military operations. They were either too afraid or too smart to interfere with the Empire's expansion. Show me, Krexthal ordered. The main screen lit up with a tactical display of the approaching fleet. Krexthal studied the ship designs with interest. They were clearly built for war, but they looked strange. The ships were covered with extra armor plates that seemed to be welded on as an afterthought. Some had weapons mounted in places that made no engineering sense. Others looked like cargo ships that had been converted into warships by adding guns to their hulls. They are primitive, said his tactical officer. Their technology appears to be several decades behind our own. How many ships do we have in this system? Krexthal asked. 300 vessels, sir. All modern Vorth design. Krexthal smiled with confidence. Open a communication channel to the approaching fleet. The communication officer worked at his station for a moment. Channel open, sir. Unknown vessels, Krexthal announced in his most commanding voice. You enter Vorth territorial claims. These worlds now belong to the Empire. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. There was a pause. Then a voice answered in clear, unaccented Galactic Standard language. It was a female voice, calm and cold. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Mercy Fleet. We're here about your genocide hobby. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from Zelani space before we demonstrate why picking on pacifists makes us very, very angry. Krexthal was shocked by the response. No one had ever spoken to a Vorth War Master with such disrespect. The humans seemed to think they could threaten the mighty Vorth Empire. You dare threaten the Vorth Empire? Krexthal roared. Your pathetic fleet cannot stand against our superior technology and training. You will 25 seconds, the human admiral interrupted. Krexthal felt his anger rising. These humans needed to learn their place in the galaxy's hierarchy. All ships prepare for battle. Show these primitive aliens the power of the Vorth Empire. 20 seconds, came the calm voice. On Zelanos Prime, deep in the crystal caves, Elder Kythera felt something change in the telepathic network. New minds had entered the system, minds unlike anything she had ever sensed before. They burned with controlled fury and determination. They felt dangerous and protective at the same time. Senthai, she called to her young assistant. Can you sense them? The newcomers? Senthai closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. After a moment, he opened them again with a look of confusion and fear. They are so angry, he whispered. But not at us. They are angry at the Vorth for hurting us. I have never felt such violent thoughts directed toward our protection. 15 seconds, the human admiral announced. Krexthal had heard enough. Fire on the human fleet. Destroy them all. The Vorth ships opened fire with their energy weapons. Bright beams of destructive force reached across space toward the human fleet. Several human ships were hit and damaged, but most of them avoided the weapons fire with surprisingly quick movements. 10 seconds, Admiral Chen said, as if she had not noticed that a battle had just begun. Then the human fleet did something that Krexthal had never seen before. Instead of forming organized battle lines like civilized military forces, they scattered in all directions. Some ships dove toward the planet. Others climbed high above the battle area. A few charged straight at the Vorth fleet at maximum speed. 5 seconds, came the human voice. What are they doing? Asked the Vorth tactical officer. This is not proper military formation. 4, 3, 2, 1. Admiral Chen counted down. Time's up. All ships weapons free. Show them what humans do to bullies. The human attack began with chaos and violence that made no tactical sense. A small human ship called the Stinger rammed directly into a Vorth cruiser, exploding both vessels in a ball of fire. The human captain had been broadcasting what sounded like ancient war songs as his ship died. "They are insane," whispered the Vorth sensor officer. Another human ship, a converted cargo hauler called the Heavy Lifter, flew close to a Vorth destroyer and launched its entire cargo hold like a massive missile. The cargo hold was filled with mining explosives that tore the Vorth ship in half. Captain Elena Vasquez guided her destroyer Righteous Fury through a group of Vorth ships, firing in all directions. Her ship was badly damaged, but she kept fighting with grim determination. "This is Righteous Fury to all human ships," she broadcast. "I'm going to ram that big one over there. Anyone want to join me?" "This is Blackbird," came the voice of the pirate Captain Torres. "We'll race you to it." Both ships accelerated toward Krexthal's flagship, firing everything they had. The Destroyer of Worlds was much larger and better armed, but the human ships were unpredictable. They dodged and weaved through weapons fire like they were dancing instead of fighting. Krexthal watched the battle with growing alarm. His ships were winning by the numbers. They had destroyed over 50 human vessels already. But the humans kept fighting with a fury that his warriors could not match. They seemed to welcome death if it meant destroying their enemies. "Sir," reported his communication officer, "we are receiving a message from one of the human ships. Put it on the main screen," Krexthal ordered. The face of a scarred human male appeared on the screen. He had cold eyes and a cruel smile. Krexthal recognized the look of a killer. To any Vorth listening, the human said, "My name is Marcus Reeves. I've done terrible things in my life, and I'm not proud of them. But today I get to do terrible things to the right people. We're the monsters your species tells stories about. We're what happens when someone hurts the innocent. Run." The transmission ended, and Krexthal watched as the human ship commanded by this Marcus Reeves launched a series of boarding pods toward a Vorth cruiser. "War Master," said his tactical officer, "the humans are trying to board our ships. This is against all civilized rules of space warfare. Stop them," Krexthal ordered. But the boarding pods were small and fast. Several reached the Vorth cruiser and attached to its hull. Then the real nightmare began. The human boarding parties cut through the ship's armor with tools that seemed designed for construction rather than war. Once inside, they moved through the corridors with ruthless efficiency. The Vorth crew had trained for ship-to-ship combat, but they had never faced enemies who boarded their vessels and fought hand-to-hand in the corridors. "Sir?" came a panicked voice from the boarded cruiser. "The humans are inside the ship. They're fighting with primitive weapons, knives and projectile guns, but they're very good at it. They seem to know exactly where to attack our ship's weak points." Krexthal felt something he had not experienced in many years. Fear. The Vorth Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had always fought civilized enemies who followed proper military rules. These humans fought like wild animals with no concern for their own safety. A new voice came over the communication system. It was Admiral Chen again. "War Master Krexthal," she said, somehow knowing his name. "You seem surprised by our tactics. Let me explain something about humans. We evolved on a world full of predators. We survived by being the most dangerous thing on our planet. We learned to hunt in packs, to use tools as weapons, and to never give up when something we care about is threatened." Krexthal watched as more human ships joined the battle. Some were clearly damaged and should have retreated, but they kept fighting. "You picked on a peaceful race that couldn't fight back." Admiral Chen continued. "That makes you a bully. And humans really, really hate bullies." The battle continued for 3 more hours. The Vorth ships had better technology and training, but the humans had something else. They had anger that burned like a star. They fought with creativity and ruthlessness that the Vorth could not counter. When Krexthal finally ordered his remaining ships to retreat, he had lost over 90 vessels. The humans had lost twice as many, but they had driven off an empire that had never been defeated before. As the Vorth fleet withdrew to the edge of the system, Krexthal sent an emergency message to Vorth High Command. "Request immediate evacuation and reinforcements," he transmitted. "The humans are not like other species. They fight like the universe owes them a debt of pain, and they collect it from anyone who hurts the innocent. Recommend avoiding all contact with human space." On Zelanos Prime, Elder Kithera felt the change in the battle through the telepathic network. The Vorth were leaving. The humans had saved them, But she also felt the cost. So many of the burning minds that had come to help were now silent. The humans had paid a terrible price to protect people they had never met. "Why?" she whispered to the crystal walls. "Why did they sacrifice so much for us?" The battle for Zelanos Prime became a nightmare that the Vorth Empire would remember for generations. What had started as a routine conquest turned into a lesson about what happens when humans decide to care about something. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display from her damaged flagship. The Leviathan had taken heavy fire, but her ship was still fighting. Around her, the remains of the Mercy Fleet continued their assault on the Vorth forces with a determination that bordered on madness. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're getting reports from all across the battle zone. The Vorth are trying to retreat, but our ships are pursuing them." "Good," Chen said. "Don't let them regroup. Keep the pressure on." Captain Elena Vasquez had lost half her crew, but the Righteous Fury was still in the fight. Her destroyer was badly damaged, with hull breaches on 3 decks and only half her weapons still working. But she had found something that made all the damage worthwhile. "This is Vasquez to all human ships," she broadcast. "I've got a Vorth command vessel cornered near the planet's 3rd moon. I'm going to board it and take their command codes. Anyone want to join me?" The response came from Marcus Hellhound Reeves, whose stolen prison ship had somehow survived 3 direct hits from Vorth energy weapons. "Righteous Fury, this is the redemption. I'll cover your boarding run. Let's see what these Vorth keep in their computer systems." Vasquez smiled grimly. Working with a war criminal should have bothered her, but today Marcus was fighting for the right side. That was all that mattered. The 2 ships approached the damaged Vorth command vessel. The alien ship was still dangerous, but its weapons were damaged and its crew was in panic. The Vorth had never faced enemies who boarded their ships during combat. "Prepare boarding pods," Vasquez ordered. "Load them with everyone who can hold a weapon." Her first officer looked worried. "Captain, we don't know anything about the inside of their ships. We could get lost in there." Vasquez checked her sidearm and picked up a cutting torch. "Then we'll follow the screaming until we find the bridge." The boarding pods launched from both human ships. They were simple metal cylinders with basic life support and cutting tools on the front. The Vorth tried to shoot them down, but there were too many pods moving too fast. The pods crashed into the Vorth ship's hull and immediately began cutting through the armor. Within minutes, human soldiers were pouring into the alien vessel's corridors. The inside of the Vorth ship was dark and filled with smoke from damaged systems. The corridors were wider than those on human ships built for the tall, thin Vorth bodies. But the humans adapted quickly, using their smaller size to move through maintenance spaces and ambush the Vorth crew. Vasquez led her team toward what their sensors indicated was the ship's bridge. They moved through the alien corridors like a pack of wolves, silent and deadly. When they encountered Vorth soldiers, the fights were brief and brutal. The Vorth were trained fighters, but they were not prepared for human close combat tactics. Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other with simple tools. In the narrow corridors of the ship, that experience gave them a deadly advantage. "Contact front," called Sergeant Williams, Vasquez's demolitions expert. 6 Vorth soldiers blocking the corridor ahead. "Smoke grenades," Vasquez ordered. "Then we go through them." The corridor filled with thick gray smoke. The Vorth soldiers tried to fire through it, but they could not see their targets. The humans moved through the smoke like ghosts, using their enhanced combat gear to see in the darkness. When the smoke cleared, the Vorth soldiers were dead, and the humans were already moving toward the bridge. Meanwhile, Marcus Reeves was leading his own boarding party through another section of the ship. His team was made up of pirates and criminals who had volunteered for the mission. They were not good people, but they were very good at violence. "Boss," said one of his pirates, "we've found their armory. Lots of fancy Vorth weapons in here." Marcus looked at the alien weapons with interest. They were more advanced than human technology, with energy cells that could fire hundreds of shots without reloading. "Take them," he ordered. "Learn how they work. We might need better guns before this is over." His team quickly figured out how to use the Vorth weapons. They were more powerful than human guns, but they were also more fragile. The pirates found that they could modify the weapons by removing safety systems and increasing the power output. "These things pack a punch," said Torres, the pirate captain who had joined Marcus for the boarding action. "But they're built for careful soldiers, not for people like us." Marcus smiled as he tested a modified Vorth rifle. "Then we'll use them the way we use everything else, badly and with great enthusiasm." Both boarding teams reached the bridge of the Vorth ship at the same time. The bridge was a large, circular room, filled with control stations and display screens. A dozen Vorth officers stood at their posts, working frantically to coordinate their ship's defense. The Vorth commander was a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms. He turned to face the humans with dignity, even though he knew he was about to die. "I am Commander Vextar of the Vorth Empire," he said in accented galactic standard. "I demand to be treated according to the civilized laws of war." Vasquez looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. "You want to talk about civilized laws? Let's discuss what you did to the Zilani children." The Vorth commander had no answer for that. Within an hour, the humans had taken control of the Vorth command ship. They captured the crew, downloaded the ship's computer files, and learned valuable information about Vorth military tactics and technology. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Sarah Kim, the xenobiologist, made contact with the Zilani survivors on the planet below. "Admiral Chen," she reported over the communication system, "I've been working with the Zilani telepaths. Their crystal technology is incredible. They can link minds across vast distances and coordinate activities with perfect precision." "Can they help us in the battle?" Chen asked. "Better than that," Dr. Kim said excitedly. "They can link our ship computers to their crystal network. We can coordinate our entire fleet like a single organism. The Vorth won't be able to predict our movements." The connection was established within hours. Human engineers worked with Zilani technicians to create a hybrid system that combined human tactical computers with Zilani telepathic crystals. The result was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human fleet began to move as one unit with perfect coordination and timing. Ships that had been fighting independently suddenly worked together like parts of a single machine. The Vorth found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to read their minds. Every time they tried to form a battle line, human ships appeared in exactly the right place to break it. Every time they attempted a tactical retreat, human forces were already in position to cut them off. War Master Krexthal watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. The humans had inferior technology and fewer ships, but they were fighting with a coordination that seemed impossible. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. Their ships are moving in perfect formation, but we cannot detect any central command signals. It is as if they share a single mind." The truth was even worse than Krexthal feared. The humans were not just coordinating their attacks. They were sharing their emotions through the Zilani telepathic network. Every human in the fleet could feel the anger and determination of their comrades. They could sense the pain of the dying Zilani and the satisfaction of every Vorth ship destroyed. It was like having 800 ships crewed by the same person. A person who was very, very angry about genocide. The final blow came when the modified Zilani human communication system was used as a weapon. Dr. Kim had discovered that human brain patterns, when amplified through Zilani crystals, created a psychic effect that other species could not handle. "Admiral," she reported, "I think we can use the telepathic network to transmit human emotions directly to the Vorth crews. Their minds are not designed to handle the kind of rage that humans feel during combat." "Do it," Chen ordered. The weapon was activated during the climax of the battle. Suddenly, every Vorth soldier in the system began to experience human battle fury firsthand. They felt the burning anger that humans carried when they saw innocent people being hurt. They experienced the protective instinct that made humans willing to die for strangers. The Vorth psychology could not process these emotions. Their species had evolved as cold, logical conquerors who fought for territory and resources. They had no understanding of the passion that drove humans to fight for moral principles. Across the Vorth fleet, crews began to panic. Some ships stopped fighting entirely as their crews became paralyzed by emotions they could not understand. Others fled the battle zone as fast as their engines could carry them. War Master Krexthal felt the alien emotions flooding into his own mind. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to care about someone else's suffering. The feeling was overwhelming and terrifying. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Emergency withdrawal to the edge of the system. Send a priority message to High Command. Tell them that humans are not like other species." The silence after the battle was almost as loud as the fighting had been. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship, looking out at the wreckage floating in space around Zalanos Prime. Pieces of Vorth and human ships drifted together like a mechanical graveyard. Final casualty report. Admiral, said her communications officer. We lost 312 ships. Confirmed dead, 18,437. Wounded, over 30,000. Chen closed her eyes for a moment. Each number represented someone who had volunteered to help strangers. Someone who had heard about genocide and decided to do something about it. And the Vorth? She asked. Their casualties were lighter, but they lost over 90 ships before they retreated. More importantly, we captured intact vessels with their technology and database files. Chen nodded. The battle had been won, but at a terrible cost. Now came the harder part, meeting the people they had saved. On the surface of Zelanos Prime, Elder Kithara led a group of surviving Zelani from their underground shelters. The crystal cities above ground were mostly destroyed, but the planet was quiet for the first time in weeks. The Vorth bombardment had stopped. The first human shuttle landed in a cleared area near the largest surviving crystal formation. Kithara watched nervously as the metal door opened and strange beings emerged. Humans were smaller than she had expected, and much more varied in appearance. Their skin came in different colors, and their faces showed emotions that changed quickly from moment to moment. They moved with controlled energy like predators that were trying to be gentle. Admiral Chen was the first to approach. She walked slowly with her hands visible and empty. Behind her came Dr. Sarah Kim and a small group of human soldiers who looked tired but alert. Elder Kithara, Chen said, somehow knowing the Zelani leader's name. We received your message. We came as quickly as we could. Kithara studied the human admiral with her large, dark eyes. Through the telepathic network, she could sense the human's emotions. Exhaustion, sadness for the fallen, satisfaction at a job completed, and something else. Something protective and fierce that made the human feel dangerous and safe at the same time. You are human? Kithara asked in carefully pronounced galactic standard. Yes, we heard your call for help. Kithara looked confused. We called for mercy. Why did you bring war? Chen considered the question carefully. This moment would be remembered by both species for generations. Her answer would shape how the Zelani understood humanity. Because sometimes, Chen said slowly, mercy has teeth. Sometimes the only way to stop a monster is to send a bigger monster. We're not here because we're good people. We're here because someone had to be the bad guys for the right reasons. The Zelani leader tilted her head, trying to understand. You call yourselves monsters? By most standards, yes, Chen admitted. We're violent, unpredictable, and we solve too many problems by breaking things. But we're also protective of people who can't protect themselves. When we heard that peaceful people were being murdered, we couldn't ignore it. Dr. Kim stepped forward. Elder Kithara, we'd like to learn about your people and your technology. We think our species could help each other. Over the following days, humans and Zelani worked together to assess the damage and plan for the future. The meetings were often difficult because the two species were so different in their thinking. The Zelani were confused by human emotions. Through their telepathic abilities, they could sense the complex feelings that drove human behavior. They felt the anger that had motivated the rescue mission, but also the sadness that humans felt when they had to use violence. They sensed the protective instincts that made humans willing to die for strangers, and the guilt that many humans carried about the destruction they had caused. Young Senthai, who had been with Kithara during the desperate plea for help, spent hours trying to understand human psychology. They are like living storms, he told the other Zelani. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. They feel joy and rage and love and hate sometimes all at once. It is overwhelming to touch their minds. The humans were equally puzzled by the Zelani. A species that had never known war was difficult for humans to understand. They could not imagine living without conflict, competition, or the constant awareness of potential threats. Captain Vasquez, whose ship had been too damaged to travel home with the main fleet, spent time talking with Zelani engineers about their crystal technology. How do you make decisions without arguing? She asked. How do you solve problems without someone being in charge? The Zelani engineer Penthali tried to explain. We share our thoughts. When we face a problem, we all think about it together until we find the best solution. There is no need for conflict when everyone can understand everyone else. Vasquez shook her head. That sounds peaceful, but how do you handle disagreements? How do you deal with people who want different things? We find compromise. We seek the path that brings the most happiness to all. And if someone refuses to compromise, if someone wants to hurt others for their own benefit? Penthali was quiet for a long moment. We have never encountered such a person. Until the Vorth came, we did not know that such thinking was possible. The conversation helped Vasquez understand why the Zelani had been so helpless against the Vorth Empire. They literally could not imagine the kind of thinking that led to conquest and genocide. But the most important discussions were about the future. The Vorth Empire would not forget their defeat at Zelanos Prime. They would return, probably with a larger fleet and better preparation. We need to help you defend yourselves, Chen told the Zelani Council, not just with weapons, but with the knowledge of how to think like warriors when you need to. Elder Kithara was troubled by this idea. We do not wish to become like the Vorth. We do not want to think thoughts of violence and conquest. You don't have to become conquerors, Chen explained. But you need to understand how conquerors think. You need to be able to defend yourselves when peaceful solutions aren't enough. The solution came from an unexpected source. Marcus Hellhound Reeves had remained on Zelanos Prime with a small group of volunteers to help with security. Despite his criminal past, he had proven to be an effective leader during the battle. Let us stay, he suggested during a meeting with both human and Zelani leaders. Some of us don't have much to go back to in human space. We could teach your people about warfare and tactics. In exchange, maybe your telepathic abilities could help us become better people. It was an unusual arrangement, but it appealed to both species. The humans would provide military training and protection, while the Zelani would share their technology and perhaps help heal some of the psychological damage that warfare had caused in the human volunteers. As the main human fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Chen received a priority message from Earth. The government wanted a full report on the mission and its implications for human foreign policy, but Chen also received thousands of personal messages from humans across the galaxy. They had heard about the Mercy Fleet and wanted to know how they could help with similar missions in the future. Admiral, said her communications officer, we're getting volunteer applications from every human colony. People want to join what they're calling the Guardian Fleet. They want to be ready in case other peaceful species need help. Chen smiled. It was the first time she had smiled since the battle began. The Mercy Fleet had been a one-time response to an emergency, but it was becoming something larger. Humanity was appointing itself as the galaxy's protector, whether the galaxy wanted protection or not. The departure ceremony was held in the ruins of the largest crystal city. Thousands of Zelani gathered to say goodbye to the humans who had saved them. The telepathic network carried waves of gratitude and sorrow as the two species prepared to part. Elder Kithara approached Admiral Chen with a small crystal pendant. This is made from the stones of our most sacred temple, she said. It will allow you to contact us across any distance. We want the humans to know that they will always have friends among the Zelani. Chen accepted the gift with formal dignity, but the Zelani could sense her genuine emotion through the telepathic link. We'll be back, Chen promised. If the Vorth return or if anyone else threatens you, just call. Humans are good at coming when people need help. As the human ships prepared to leave, they sent one final message to the rest of the galaxy. It was broadcast on all frequencies in every known language. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Mercy Fleet. Today we helped defend a peaceful species against genocide. Tomorrow we'll go home to our own lives and our own problems. But if anyone in this galaxy thinks they can commit genocide or oppress the innocent while humans are watching, they're wrong. We're not the strongest species or the smartest or the most advanced, but we're the ones who come running when someone calls for help. We're the ones who fight monsters even when we have to become monsters ourselves to do it. The message continued. To peaceful species everywhere, you are not alone. If you need help, call for humans. We'll answer. To aggressive species everywhere, we are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies. But if you choose to hurt innocent people, then you'll learn why other species tell scary stories about humans.